Hello, everybody. This is Jason Eagle, your natural health authority, with today's Healing Matters podcast. You can subscribe, go to Facebook is Strategic Healing. My YouTube is Jason Eagle QRA. Podcast is Healing Matters, and today we're talking about being offended. What is an offense? What offends you? Is it healthy? Why are you getting offended? Or I also like to say triggered is another word for offended. Is there ever a time? What does it mean? And then learning skills to not be offended, or what do you do about it? And how do we have skills to have good conversations? Because oftentimes when we're talking about being offended, it's somebody said something. There's also actions and things like that. But let's start with kind of like a definition. A lot of times when I look at things and I look at any issue, and you can take any word, and there's a whole science of what's called etymology and breaking the words down and what do the words sound like. Sometimes it's what they sound like and it makes it sound like another thing, sometimes with inside the word. So offense is one way to say it, and then there's defense. So it's one way of thinking about it, and kind of like a definition is are you talking about, like, say, fighting? Are you talking about like playing a game, which is you have the offense on one side and you have the defense on the other side? Okay, and then we also have the kind of the definition of like offended is literally you get anger up, or you get like it's against something. So being offended by something can be, and again, then we get into what's offensive in terms of, again, I guess public pornography or crime, or, again, even bad crimes like murder and stuff like that is considered offensive, or drawing pictures of it that are, okay, so all these different types of definition of offensive. Also, offended meaning, I guess in the classical term like this, is somebody said something or did something or even looked away. For instance, people can say, that looks offensive. Why are you wearing that? That's offensive. Meaning they're not saying anything, they're just going about their business. Or let's say a person picks a picture up or even puts words up that is not a person, is not saying anything. You're the one that's reading it. But it's offending something that was already inside of you. So then we're going to get into, well, where does it come from? Okay. So the first thing we're going to talk about is again, where do we get some of the wisdom, or where do we hear these words, or what are some of the things that, so Bible is a good example of, I'll take that one as scripture as where we hear that concept, and it talks a lot about that concept, and it talks a little bit on both ways, because it's also kind of can take in, like, there is what you are offended by, and then there's what's offensive in the sense that, everybody thinks that, right? Everybody thinks that doing this is offensive. Well, not everybody does, but if everybody does, then where did they get the idea from that? And the idea would come from, did you have the idea? Did you look at something? Because some people can be raised in certain areas and certain times, and one culture or one person or one family or one group looks at that and goes, that's not offensive. I don't know what you're talking about. And then the other one's going, yes, it is. And so is it learned? And is there a underneath that in terms of what's offensive to life itself? What does life think about an offense? Okay, the Bible talks a lot about it, as well as a lot of other philosophies talk about it, and there's kind of both sides, which is, there's the don't tread on me type of thing, which is Hatfields and McCoys, of where people go, them's fighting words, right? And depending upon where you live in a country, if you do one thing one way, so in one country, if you burp at the table, it's like, oh, that's fine, and then another one is like, if you burp at the table, like you might as well have thrown up on the table and get out of here, and my whole family's going to come after you and beat you up, right? So the Bible does talk a lot about this. And one of the things that it does, I mean, there's a whole bunch of different scriptures, but some of the ones, the top ones, is slow to anger and overlook. There is glory. It says there is glory in the overlooking of offense. Okay, I'm going to bring that other word up too. Like I said, etymology, because offense and defense, take the off and the D away, and what do you got? You got a fence. And a fence is a wall. A fence is a border. And if you're on the inside of the fence, that is a security, and that it's a wall that's put up to keep things inside and keep things from the outside coming in. But it's also a fence, like it can be a cage, which is keeps things from getting out, right? And it's both. And so you can offense and defense, and even defensing, that word is defense, take away the fence, right? So, and then there's a bunch of the scriptures that covers an offense. And basically what the Bible basically says, and again, a lot of wisdom says, well, but it also, let me say this too, before I get to that. There's other times where it also says, God is offended, or it says nature is offended, where it says if you hurt the little ones, if you do this crime, God is offended, like nature is offended, life is offended. Okay, but you would think, well, should I be offended too? Should I? Well, this is a tough one, so let me keep going on with this, which is, again, it says, God says, I'm the one that is offended, or let's say God is nature, I'm the one that's offended, and because it's my law, it's the law of life. Again, it is offensive to harm little kids, and it's offensive to, like again, swearing in front of grandma that, in certain countries, in certain places, like that's offensive, and like you just hurt her mind, or you just hurt her eyes, or something like that. And so there's one side that says, well, but I don't have a problem with it, and then there's the other side that says, I do have a problem. Well, what's the real problem? What I'm getting into in a true offense is that it's not my problem, it's God's problem, it's nature's problem. And that's where I learned about it from. So I learned about these things is because you weren't born with this, although there is things that people are born with. All right, it's getting a little bit complicated here, but let's get back into it, which is, okay, let's get back into that word, which is, it says that it's offense. An offense would be, as I said, a boundary, a wall, a security. On one side, it is, I live in my compound and it's keeping the bad guys from getting in. On the other side is we got this animal that we need to stick in a cage. So when you get into the word, that's kind of what it talks about. It talks about calls it as a trap and a snare. Those that are being offended by something. Those that get offended is like, again, it's, think about it, in a person in a bar, and some guys, if they're drunk enough, it's like, like in Star Wars, like, who are you looking at? Like, we don't like you, and you better watch it. We're wanted men. Then he starts fighting. Or like, again, a person would be like, you bump into somebody, and it's like one person would, oh, excuse me, nice and British and everything. But the other person is like, damn, okay, now it's on. You jump, it's like they treat it like you punch them. Or for some people that would be like, you just looked at my girl, right? But did that guy come in, like, in his mind, and the girl and the guy are like, let's look for a fight. Let's look for a fight. Let's try and get somebody started in a fight. And all it takes is for someone to just look at me wrong, okay? But again, the person that is, say, on the other side can be like, whoa, okay, like, I'm not going to take the bait. That's what it calls it, is a trap. Being triggered. I'm not going to take the bait. I'm going to move aside and just let it go. And if you're going to call me a jerk or whatever, unless you want to get into a fight, and there's a time to fight, know when to hold them, know where to fold them, okay? But for the most part, once you get into a fight, there's going to be a trouble. But see, now we're also talking about an offense, which is the fight in you, is the fight in your mind, stuck in your mind. And are you fighting with yourself, or are you fighting with what people would be doing on the outside? It gets to this other kind of question within this type of thing. Is it healthy? Well, and if it's not healthy, what do I do about it? And what can I do about it? Okay. So again, let's get back to that word again. It's a shell, a husk, which is that's something like an egg. You got the tender little egg, that the embryo that's growing on the inside, but it's a shell so that it protects it from the outside. But eventually, if that baby grows big enough, it has to break out of the shell, right? And so there's constantly, so we can even have offenses that have to do with something that we got exposed to, offenses that basically, let me get back to that for a second. Because again, I'm trying to keep this relevant too, which is there's a lot of things in this culture right now that are offensive to people, and it's on both sides, which is if you do that, that's offensive, but other people are not doing that. And if you don't do that, then that's offensive. And so we get into, again, going back to that boundaries, which is the reason for creating a boundary. A shell is to create a division, okay? So now we're getting into that word divisions, and that's what an offensive is. It's a dividing line between, you cross that line, now you've gone into this territory. And either I'm going to back up and let you in, or I'm going to stand against you and no further. This is, and then the divisions that are, so when we get to divisions, die or by, it's kind of like dividing. That's in that word, dividing, which is taking something that was whole and now breaking it apart. And then now taking it and setting almost like a mirror image, which is, you'll see animals look in the mirror and they go, like, who are you looking at? Like, we laugh about it. It's really you, but it's the other vision of you. And now you're going to fight with it or whatever. So again, divisions would be black, white, red, blue, the divisions of man, woman, all these different things. Again, they're all a whole, but it's a perception of a division. Now, sometimes those divisions are for protection. There's the criminal and the felon, or the malevolent, and then the delicate. And so sometimes things need to be protected, okay? Sometimes you got to have a boundary around that wall, okay? But again, know when to hold them and know when to fold them. Know how much to get involved in it, because if you get too involved in things and you're constantly in this, keeping these walls up and being triggered, oh, that's a wall, that's a wall. It's stressful on your body. It's stressful on your immune system. It's stressful and in this day and age when we're trying to be healthy, and it's much of this, what's relevant right now is the division. There's the sick and there's the healthy? Are there the exposed or the unexposed? Are there the ones that have done this and then the ones that haven't done it yet? But you got to realize on the other side. So there's, on both sides, both look at the other and say, well, you're kind of a harm to me, or I'm skeptical about that, right? I'm skeptical about what, you've done and what you haven't done. I'm skeptical about what you look like and what you don't look like, right? What we look like and what you. So there's we, us, and them, we and them. Well, where do these things come from? Are they inherently and built into the system in terms of that's what animals are like? Or is it something that is learned, right? And if you learn something, can you unlearn something? Or also, can you learn something and then still stay the same thing, meaning you didn't change my mind, but I'm acting different. Now I see your way, and now I'm going to act differently. I'm still going to do what I'm going to do, but I'm not going to necessarily get as wound up in it. I'm not necessarily going to get baited by you and pulled into this, because ultimately I just want to go about my business and go about my day and go back home and be unharmed with my family, right? And the family is typically, we kind of agree together. You can still have disagreements, but see, that's the thing. In a good family, in a good community, like, he's doing that over here, but that's my brother, that's my sister, and I'll stand and I'll help them. I may not necessarily agree with their actions or what they're doing or something like that, but yet, that's my family, and I'm going to stand by that. So again, when we get into, is it you or is it coming through you? And one of the things that I also like, there's a really good book that it has some really great stuff in this, like the Bible. It's not the same as the Bible at all, but it has some of the same type of wisdom. The Four Agreements, or even what's called the Fifth Agreement, okay, which is this ancient Toltec knowledge. And it talks about these different things that is how we see the world. And this includes an offense in terms of, when a person does something to you or even says, hey, you, I don't like you. Are they really talking to you? And does it really matter to you? Because again, if a person could go through life and kind of go, they said it to me, but I didn't take it personally. These are some of the 4 agreements, which is we get into the first agreement, which is be impeccable with your word. Okay? Impeccable means don't make a mistake. Like be is good. So again, sometimes if it means hold your words before you're going to say it, right? Think about it, what you say. And impeccable means that you also think about what it's going to do to the other person, because ultimately you want to get your point across, but you wanted to get it across in terms of where people are going to act positively to that, or even people act negatively to that, which is when it is a no, which is that's my boundary. It's a no, and I'm sticking with it because that's what's good for me, right? And that's also what's good for me. My best for me is also what's good for you. Okay? Now, I'm not going to force that on you, but it's well thought out. And being impeccable means that it's the best that you can do. Okay? So that's one. In terms of this is how we think about ourselves, but also how we think about the outside world and dealing with the outside world. How do we keep this balance of, I'm staying as strong and as healthy as I can, because I matter, and the healthier that I are, and the more balanced and peaceful that I am, even if it's something you have to stand against, can you stand it in peace where it's also healthy for me to even stand in opposition to something that's going to take some stress on me and whatever, but is that stress because it's worth going through? So again, when to hold them, when to stand, there is a time. The second one is don't take anything personally. Again, even if a person's looking at you going, you, Jason, I don't like you, Jason, right? And you say, well, how else can you take it? He said my exact name, right? Okay, but that person that's saying Jason is outside of me. And everybody on the outside of me doesn't really know my thoughts, doesn't know my intentions. They're not me. And in fact, even people that love me, they love an idea of me. The same thing, the people that I love an idea of them. And that idea comes in before they ever came in. Okay? So this is getting later too, like, did they do it to you? Or did you do it to them? Right? Or did you do it to yourself and they're just following suit with you? So the idea is about like so what we would say, what is loving, what is good, what I like and what I don't like. Think about a dog or a person. Like I like to be scratched this way, but I don't like to be scratched this way. Take a cat, and if a cat likes being pet, they will like being pet this way, the way that the hair grows. But if you go the other way, it's like, ugh, I don't like that, right? So when a person, let's say, scratches my back, or let's say says something nice to me, I come into this world with those definitions already, those ideas. So some people, it is, I need to be praised, and when a person says, good job, right, that's what I like, okay? But there are other people that are like, don't like being praised, don't like that. It's not like they want to be scolded, it's just, it makes them embarrassed, right? It makes them feel self-conscious or something like that. And so when you say you are the person on the outside saying, good job, and you praise that person, it's like you scratched them the wrong way. Well, you didn't know, right? And you were just doing what other people you think and what you thought other people would like. Okay, but we come, and so when a person says that's offensive to me, many times it is, it's always about, I came into the situation with this as me. Now, this as me sometimes came from what we learned from other people, but there's some things that come in through, like, I have a child, and people that have children, like, they came in who they are. And as they grow older, you start to kind of go, now I see that, people learn and develop and change, but there's a central core to people that, like, where did that come from? That was right there from the very beginning. So everybody, in terms of, again, this is getting back to taking it personally, which is even when a person says that person did something and that was wrong, you stacked the cup this way, that's the wrong way. I don't like it. I like it when you stack the cup this way. And then the other person goes, well, what's the difference? Because you can stack them this way and this way. But for some people on that side, it's when you do it that way, because it was offensive to the way that they were thinking about it, you've automatically done an offense, right? But who was it? The person thinking, oh, I'm thinking about you and I'm going to be offending you. No, everyone's just going about their business. Everyone's just going about, even if they think that they're thinking about another person, what they're thinking about, oh, Jerry did this thing to me, or all of these other things, which is God, so this is so hard to explain. Again, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? The egg comes first, the egg of the idea, which is you come in with your triggers built into you. Now you can say, well, they made me do that, right? But there are other people that can go through same situations and go, it's no skin off my nose. I don't know. It didn't bother me. Like, I didn't even notice that, right? You stack the cup that way. Like, I'm fine. Like, you can do it anyway. So, again, being triggered often comes from, and again, taking it personally is they're not really thinking about you. Nobody's thinking about you. They're just thinking about themselves. And that's neither good nor bad. That's just what it is. Everyone thinks about themselves. And so even when they say you did something to offend me, that was already in them and they're just thinking about themselves. And so if you can apply this to, oh, wow, that just offended me or that just triggered me, okay? But taking away, when you then put this other thought on it, but they didn't really personally mean it, right? And again, they may not know any better. That's how they were raised. That's what they came through. And they came with a chip on their shoulders. I got a chip on my shoulder. They got a chip on their shoulder. And that was there before they even walked into the room. And it was anyone that just moved that way, they were going to get it because that's what happened. That's kind of, again, like the people walking into a bar, which is who you looking at. They walked in before they even went into that bar going, they better not look at me. They better not look at, whereas another person goes, people look, right? And so one person comes in with that preordained or pre-set up, it's triggered. It's a snare. And that's where it talks about this. It's like a snare. It's ready to go. Like you put your foot in there, you're going to trip the snare. You step on that thing, boom, it's going to close. And now you're locked into this mind frame. That's why the Bible talks about overlooking an offense, figuring out, oh, first of all, and this gets into some of the antidotes. This is the first step is to see yourself doing it. You can't change it. You can't help it. And most of the time, you don't even know it. Most of the time when people go home after being offended and reacting and getting a fight, they're like, God, why didn't it just happened before I knew it. I said it and I wish I could have taken it back, but it just happened so quickly. And so you're in it and it's over before you even notice it. So starting to notice these things, but again, starting to notice it, what has that got to do with me? They didn't offend me. They didn't mean to offend me. I had this hair trigger ready to go off and all they did was just step in it, okay? But could you eventually get to the point of where they stepped in it and you can keep the snare from going off, right? There's people in the world that we would call handicap, but I call like the greatest blessings of God. I call it and a good example of the least offended people, the people that almost, it's like the Zen master of offense would be a Down syndrome person. Not all Down syndrome people, but almost all of them. They're like this, which is they're very hard to offend. I mean, you can even have bullies making fun of them and they just laugh along. And again, it's not because they're stupid. It's not because they don't understand. It's because this offense thing is not up in them and they don't see a need to. It's not triggered. And they're gifted with that. That's just, they come into the world with this great gift and it's an absolute, again, if we could learn to be like that, wow, it would be great to go through life while people are doing these things around and you don't take the bait, right? And you don't even know how to take the bait, If you're taking the bait and you have to learn how to, and it's hard work to learn how to do this, because if you start to see yourself doing it and then start to get behind it and say, oh, here it comes, I see it coming. So, but again, let's go back to the other one, which is God says, well, but there are some things that are offensive. But see, that's the law of nature that came in first before you were even born. So it's their problem. It's God's problem. It's nature's problem. And if I have to act upon it, get mad and fight back or whatever, or defend, it's going through me and I don't have to take it personally. It's not like you did it to my family or whatever. It's you did this to life. You did this to people. You hate people. And that's because of what happened to you. And so if we can get deeper and deeper and deeper to even getting to a point of like even offensive people and malevolent people, can you let them go too, right? Don't let them do what they're doing. You got to definitely stand up again. But can I stand up and not take it personally, but yet still do the right thing? This is a finesse here. This is amazing. Let me get into the third thing, which is the third agreement, which is don't make assumptions. Assumptions, again, the person who was like, they were just looking to pick a fight. They were just looking to look at me. You don't know, like they were just glancing over, and could it be that they just looked at her, right? And could it be that they, that smile that they had was just, they were just being friendly. They were just being nice. And you came in going, well, the girls are cheaters and this and that. So, but you came in with that. So you laid that upon what happened on the outside. And then you assume that. So you came in with your assumptions. And then even people that come in with their assumptions, you can see that, like, for instance, that's their pre-setup. That was there before. So an assumption is just like, already I think it's going to go this way. And they see it in their mind or they feel it in their heart. And lo and behold, it happens that way. Or lo and behold, any way you do it, they're going to see it that way. And so, again, it's just like a mirror that bounces back on them. And people get stuck in a loop. And again, that prison, that offense, you're stuck in a mirrored fence that keeps bouncing back at you. And you're the parrot looking at yourself. Could it be that you're fighting yourself? Yes, that's a big part of it. And so what starts to make this type of stuff better is, like, how do we start getting out of it? How do we really start kind of going, I need to change this, but I don't change them. It points out I need to change me, but I can't change me. I am who I am. And how do I do that? The fourth agreement is a good, helpful thing, which is always do your best. Or even the Bible, which is basically said, love covers all offense. God love them. That's what Grandma used to say. And that would, you'd say this person did this bad thing, and she'd say, God love them. They don't know any better. But they still got to go to jail, right? There's the wisdom of they're still going to face that block that is said, you do this, this is what happens. But yet it also is allowing a opening for them as a human, for them as let's say, again, they were deceived. A deceived human. They didn't know any better. They were deceived. They were the Hatfields and the McCoys. They didn't know any better, right? They were raised in the North, or they were raised in the South, or they were raised in the East. They don't know any better. Even if it's what we would call offensive or against, again, we don't eat dogs and they eat dogs, right? In some places. But there are some real things, which is, in the whole world, everyone agrees that like a murdering killer, that's not good. Right? And so, but that's not my law. That's the law of God, which goes through me, and I don't have to take it personally. And so it's not against me. It's not against my family. Even if you said and you meant it, you thought you meant you were saying it to me, but it's the idea of Jason that you had before you ever met Jason. So being mad at Jason is you're not really. I don't have to say, even if you say it my name, I don't have to take it personally because you don't really know Jason. You have the idea of it. Okay? I'm getting to it. Then the fourth agreement, which is after not making assumptions, is always do your best. Because we can come out of a thing and go, yeah, I could have done that. And so again, an opportunity to fix it the later time is always do your best. Did you do your best? No, I didn't do my best. Yes, I did do my best. If you know I've crossed all my T's and dotted all my I's and I did the best and I tried and they still attacked or they still did this, then I can peel it away and kind of go, let it go. Let it go, and just give it to God or just give it up and let it go. I'm not going to hold on to it. Like, again, with an offense, being offended, again, the Buddha talked about this too. And it basically said this is being offended is like when someone hurts you, I'm going to hurt them back, okay? So I'm going to grab a hot coal and I'm going to throw that hot coal and it's going to burn them when that hits them, right? And they will get theirs, right? Offend, defend, right? But what he says is while you're holding that coal, it's burning your hand. I'm going to hold it I'm waiting like a snowball. I'm going to wait for them to get to just the right place and wham, I'm going to hit them right in the head, right where it hurts. But I'm getting burned all the while that I'm holding onto it. So in any 1 second, like just pick it up once. Let's say you drop it. Okay, that's what it says. Drop an offense. It's burning you. Love covers all offense because you really want to be at peace. And again, if they really have done evil, do you really have to be the one to do it? They'll get theirs. They will get theirs. Again, because, turn around has come around and karma and it will. But it doesn't have to be through you unless it has to be through you and you can do it and it comes through you, but you don't have to have anything left over in terms of you don't even smell like smoke. Meaning, can I even stand up against things when it causes time to fight and causes time to stand? Do I have to take all of the brunt of it? No, you don't. Always do your best. And then we get to the fifth agreement. This is what the fifth one they added, which is a new one that was like, oh, but really, if you really want to get into it, it's really like a five finger death punch, which is the fifth one is this is, he talks about it, the power of doubt. And it's not even just doubting them. You can even doubt yourself, which is, did I really learn correctly? Did I really do that right? Did I really, I say that this is what it is, but, could it be that that's just what I learned? Could it be that I don't know any better? I could say, well, they don't know any better. Could you also look at the man in the mirror? I'm looking at the man in the mirror. I'm asking him to change his ways, which is, could you be deceived? And you think it's their fault, and it is their fault, and it is they're deceived, but it could be we're all deceived. And again, the only person you can change is you. So the fifth agreement is be skeptical. I don't know if what you're saying is right, but learn to listen. So when we get to, again, is how do we do a reversal? Okay, so one of the things in terms of how do you fix something is oftentimes it's staring you right in front of the face. So the first thing you fix is a perspective. What you thought about it, what you think about it, what you thought it was, you think it said, right? So even the words or even the concept, you can take it and reverse it. What is the reversal of offense? There's great, definitions, and there's many definitions, and one of the top definitions is what's the opposite of an offense? A fence is meekness. Like I said, I like the example of a Down syndrome person. Meekness, that's a perfect example of meekness, which is, it's really hard. It says be slow to anger. Slow to anger, and the glory, the person who is glorious, which is at this highest state, or the illuminated state, illuminated ones, if you want to call it. It's not to control everybody. The top of the pyramid is to be the one that covers all offense. Is to see, you're not doing it to me. And I'm not going to take it personally. You can't, even if you say you're intending to do it to me, you're not doing it to me. You're doing it to yourself and what you think I am to you. And you came into this before you ever met me. Before you ever met me or people like me or, that type of thing. You came in with this first. Same thing as I did. I came into it first going, if they're going to be like that, for sure. Like if a person, cuts me off, I'm going to assume that it's game on. Where you can have grandpa and it's just like, someone pulled in front of me, right? And then she's sitting next to him. Are you going to take that? Take what? I don't understand. People just drive, right? So one person sees the action of another person and sees an assumption, an action. Don't you know that that's what they were thinking? No, I don't know, right? And even if they were doing that, could you also get to the point which is, I don't, even if they meant to cut me off and they're like going to flip me off and everything like that, right? Like, do I have to take the bait? Can I just drive along and just keep going on my way and get to where I'm supposed to go without any problem? Yeah, that's the best thing. That's what you set out to do in the first place. I set out to drive there and not have anyone cut me off. But if they do, is it going to ruin my day and we're going to road rage on it and we're going to, go into fisticuffs, right? And can they do that and I still not have to fight? Okay. Another of the reversals is friendliness. Again, if you want to know the truth of this time and day and age, just turn it upside down. Turn it backwards and upside down. If you want to know what the plans are, take it and turn it upside down. If you want to know the plans of yourself, of what's going on, like I thought I was doing this, well, take it and turn it the opposite. And you might find some great wisdom in that, which is, do you really want, so some people want the peace. So is the peace that you seek when everyone does the right thing? Okay? Well, if that's your agenda, then you're not going to be at peace. You're never going to be at peace because you don't want peace. You want to have everything your way, right? Could it be others' ways and you could still have my way within myself and they're still doing what they're doing, that's the real definition. Again, they're both real, but what's the one that's good for your life? What's the one that's good for other people's lives? Even the ones in terms of that are bad. Be at peace, but yet stand, right? Being skeptical and learning to listen, okay? How did they know? Like, again, when a person comes in and just does the offensive thing, it's like, I've had people say this before. It's as if they knew how to piss me off. Like are you trying to do that, right? Well, again, like I like to say about this one thing, which is you've had people that kind of go, I go from relationship to relationship and they beat me and they do this, or I go from town to town, or I go from place to place and they have it out for me. I'm losing my job. I get fired left and right. Many people, so on the one side of it, the one that is taking the offense and is stuck in that fence, and they're stuck in a fence, is their mind is stuck in this thing going, you know what? It's these people, they're against me, right? And they don't know they think this, but it's like how they think, which is, you know what? There must be an anti-Jason group. And everywhere I go, they basically have a meeting and they get together and say, let's just all agree to do this thing against Jason. Because that's the only way I can see that it happens, because it keeps happening to me again and again and again. Well, guess what? Wherever you go, there you are, right? So you get a person who is a grumpy person, and everywhere they go, anywhere vacation they go, they get off the plane and they're going to see people that are offensive and are mean or this or that. Well, who came first? It's them. So I bring myself everywhere I go. So again, we get into, they did it to me, right? You made me feel this way, right? But here's another thing. Take a reversal and going, did you make them do it? Did we bring that in? If you come in with a chip on your shoulder, then that's the signal you're sending out. And could it be possibly that you just draw in those people? You just become like breadcrumbs, and so who did who? So the people that say it just keeps happening to me again and again, it's because you are the common factor. I am the common factor that happens everywhere I go. So if I'm the one that's bringing the chip on my shoulder, then people are just going to do it to me, and I'm going to see it that way, and I'm going to attract that. I'm going to bring that in. So again, how do you fix it? Which is one, love covers all. The very first love is, could it be that you need to have self-love, which is, God bless Jason, right? He just learned that. He was raised by these people, and you know what? They were wrong. They were wrong about them. They were wrong about him. They were wrong about other people. And it's going to take time. It's going to take time to unlearn that. You come back from a war zone, you're going to be post-traumatic stress disorder, and you're just going to be like, oh, everything's a bomb going off, and it was just a tire, and it was just like someone popping their gum, or it was someone dropped a book, right? They're not out to get you. So what came first? You always came first. You came into this thing first with your preconceived notions and learned things. And could it be that you learned something out of trauma that now doesn't fit anymore? It was appropriate for you to cover and cower and the bombs are going off. But when it's not a bomb anymore, when are you going to learn that it's not that anymore and that I can defuse that reaction, that triggered reaction, because it's not serving me anymore? The only thing it's serving is this fight or flight response, which is get back to health, which is making your body revved up and use its resources a lot faster, and it's sucking life out of you. Now, again, that's important if you're trying to survive, right? But if you're well past surviving, and this is not, them's ain't fighting words, then why be fighting? Do you need to fight? Do we need to be offended all the time, right? And eventually, too, again, who cares? I care. I care about what my day is going to be like. I care about what my life is going to be like. And that's where getting into, again, to the wisdom, which is it's not the dummy. So some people will say, you're going to let them get away with it? Yes, sometimes I am, because it's not worth it wasting my life on that. Now, the person that's sitting over here, eventually they're going to have the heart attack. They're going to go out faster and they're going to have a protected life, but ultimately it is more miserable. And that's the thing. This is misery love company, and I want to get out of the company of that misery. And even the company of myself, which is that man in the mirror, which is even alone in a room by myself, I could be the one that's going through this in my mind all the time. And most people, ones that come in with the chip on the shoulder ready to fight, it's because they've been fighting all night long in their own mind, in their own soul. And they'll always put it on the outside and find a package on the outside to say, see, it's them. But if you're just taking and putting a costume on other people and making them look like that. And again, that's manipulative. Who are even manipulating? And if everyone manipulates, then why not manipulate it the right way? Why not make it a good story? Why do you got to be in a horror film all the time? Why not a good film? Why can't it turn out right? This is where we can change our mind. This is where we can change an offense, which is if you go in even to a day, someone's going to piss me off. But you know what? I'm going to practice. I'm going to see myself starting to do this. And then I'm going to start getting to a point of where I can let it go. Now, let me tell you, this is what I've also been telling people. There's a real deep other side of this one. The other side is the first one is like, I hope that doesn't happen to me because it's going to break my mind or it's going to make me mad. Second is, oh God, give me the grace to deal with it and help me to defend against it. Then the next point is oh God, help me to then transform it. Helps me to kind of then be that. That's level. That's not as far as it goes. There can be another point of where you can get to, which is, okay, I've started to get good at this. Started to get good. And you notice now that okay, the people don't offend me anymore because it's almost like they stopped coming around because it's not triggering anymore. But could there ever be a point where you, instead of going, I hope that it doesn't happen, you go out and I hope it does happen? Again, is there ever going to be something that's going to work a muscle? I hope there's a playground around there. I hope there's something that I can swing, my arms off of that's going to exercise. So sometimes even an offense is on the other side of it. It literally is. Could it be that it was put inside you, or that even your life arranged to make these things to get you to overcome? And so instead of being, oh, I hope it doesn't happen to me, you get to a point which is, bring it on, baby. Come on. Bring it on. I hope someone comes after me and offends me. Most people don't want to ever happen to it. But could you get to a point where instead of being weakened by it, you'll get strengthened by it? Because what it does is like Tai Chi, which is you hit me, and I'm not swinging back at you. So one level of Tai Chi is so that I can swing back and hit you. But the true level of the master, like the drunken master and the old man master is you're going to come after me and you're going to pick on me on the trail. I'm going to use you to come after me to then shoot me further over there, and I get away from you. And I get to the place I want to be to anyways, which is at peace with myself or peace over there with those people over there. So could I even use an offense to the point of where it doesn't hurt me anymore? Now, and then if you get to that point, what you'll find is it will stop happening altogether, because it's like, oh, you got my number. Oh man, it doesn't do. So the bullies that you don't get bullied by, they won't bully you anymore. And have fun trying to get a bully come after you when they don't get a rise out of you. They'll stop coming. They will stop coming. And then you'll have to look for those opportunities to have. And most people just love that point, which is when people don't bother me anymore. If I'm not bothered, then it seems like the people that bother me, they're not around. Or it seems like they're doing it, but I don't notice it anymore. So the world didn't even change. They didn't stop doing it, but I stopped seeing it. Or I saw it, and I could now be at the level of like, oh, funny, Jason. It's funny how you used to get triggered by that, isn't it? And you kind of pat yourself on the head and like, oh, that's funny. And you go about your way, right? And then you start to even have compassion for even your triggered self. So then it gets to a point which is, what can you do to me? How can the world harm me if everything I can take and I can turn it into something that's the next level of being offended. And it's not defense. It's not taking away the offense. It is, it's freedom. It's freedom. It's sovereignty. Because again, put a person in a fence, right? Put a person inside a fence that doesn't have a roof on it, you can fly out. You got wings, you can fly out, okay? Or put a person in a fence that is completely covered. You get small enough, you can get through the cracks and nothing can hold you. So a fence is not really a trap. It's only an illusion. It's a mind fence. And who put it there? You came in with it, or you learned to do that. They didn't make that happen. And they're just showing up and resonating with the fence that's already kind of built in you. And who built it? You built it, right? So again, offended is not something that can ruin our life. And it is we have to learn how to deal with it, but it's an opportunity, like a exercise equipment, to exercise a muscle of not just compassion, but love. And true love even kind of goes, oh, silly you didn't even know what you're doing. Like, silly you, like, you think you're going to get away with it. Like, so even evil can be looked at and have that same level. Don't let them get away with it. But again, it's like, you think you're going to get away with this? No, it's not, right? And so then that allows me to be the one that looks at it and kind of goes, you didn't take anything from me. In fact, I'm as happy as I was before, and I'm getting happier because I'm learning to live with it, and I'm learning how to see what it is. And now I have tools to take whatever swings at me and it either gets me deeper into myself, and I fix myself, or I love myself and I dress myself so I can even be thankful to those that triggered me. It's like, thank you. Like, you really, like, you showed what a jerk I really am. Like, it's not you being the jerk. You really helped me. And then they'll stem back, even if they're trying to be a jerk, like, what? Like, whatever. And then they walk away. Or even deeper than that, they go, whoa. Like, forget about people preaching to me or people telling me a change. You are the change. How does that happen? How do you do that? I did this to you, and you did that back to me. Like, everyone fought me back, and you're the only one that, like, but yet you gave me sweetness. You gave me joy. You gave me meekness back for that. Like, whoa. Like, that's a head scratcher. It causes, and the evil in this world will never figure it out. But that's the way to freedom. And that's the way to even have, if you're going to change anybody and change people to the right way, which is not your way, which is it's nature's way, it's the common law, natural law, God's way, if you want to call it that. It's not your way. It's the way. Like the Mandalorian. This is the way, right? I didn't make it up. I just harmonized with it. And it's not me. Meet the way, right? And I just be the way, right? And that's strength and sovereignty and power, and it's the most attractive thing, and it is the antidote. It's the antidote to this evil, because it's the thing that says, wow, that's true power. True power is to take it and to turn it into something like glory. Can you turn lead into gold? Can you turn it into something that's useful for everybody and it's beautiful? Could an offense be turned in? Yes. Yes, that's the great work. It's the great work, and it can be done, and it already is. Because again, the bird doesn't know out there that you're, being mean to it. Doesn't know. But again, could we be a conscious being better than the bird, but also have that same characteristic? Again, wise, gentle as doves, but wise as serpents, or like a lamb to the slaughter. Who wants to be that? I raise lambs. They're awesome. They're beautiful. And they're not stupid. They just don't have a bad bone in their body, right? And yes, they can be very vulnerable, right? But you know what? They also have a very, very peaceful life. And they win in the end. Meekness and kindness and friendliness and love and sanity and not being offended and transforming offense, it wins in the end. And if you want to be on the winning side and feel good and actually have an answer to the world, to what the world is going in, this is the answer, is to, yes, a book called Unoffendable, right? Which is, you can't offend me, even if you try, right? Goes right through me, like the Tai Chi thing, which is, or the Qigong, which is, you're not pushing against me. I'm solid on the ground, and you're pushing into the ground. So have fun pushing against that ground. You can beat at it all day long, and you're just going to break your knuckles on it. You're not hitting me. You're going to hit the ground, and eventually you will cry mercy, and eventually you'll have to just lay on the ground, all broken, and the ground will then heal you. So again, it doesn't even have it out for you. This is how we develop strength. And now is a great time. It's as bad as it is out there. The mask, not the mask. Take the shot, don't take the shot. What's the news? Fake news, real news, blah, 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 blah. Okay? There's the real that's just all outside of you. And then there's the me that's real, just sitting and watching it. And I'm going to be here. And the nature that I'm attached to, this world, it's always going to be there. And I choose to side with that. And I choose to side with this love, which is not weakness. Meekness is not weakness. It's the greatest strength in the universe. And every knee shall bow at that meekness, that which is super powerful, but yet I want you to be rescued too. Could it be that everybody could be rescued? And what we need to be rescued from is this own offense that came in with us, that is attaching to us, that comes from the outside to the inside. And we incorporate it and we think it's us, but it's not us. And but it's like a mirror, and it's got your face on it. It's got your clone face on it. And it looks just like you, like the Terminator, like, come home, honey, but it's not her. She's dead in the corner, and it's the Terminator calling you home, but it's the wrong home to sabotage you. I'll feel comfortable when they stop doing what's offensive. No, that's the peaceful space, and the safe space is not a space. In fact, it's a trap. It is a trap. It is a lure and a trap, and it's not freedom, and it's not sovereignty. And again, sovereignty is not even freedom from offensive-ness. No, it's because it's never not going to be offensive. Everyone's going to find something that's offensive. But got to diffuse the bomb. Got to diffuse the bomb. And this is the way. Till next time, bye-bye.